It's decision time, New Zealand.
We are in it for you.
We will get New Zealand back on track.
The battle lines are drawn.
Dental care free.
Tax relief for people.
And the gloves are off.
There is a multi-billion-dollar hole in their tax swindle as well.
Grant Robertson is going to go down as one of the worst finance ministers this country has ever had.
You have a choice. The red Chris.
It's economic sabotage.
Or the blue Chris.
There is too much at stake.
One will lead our next government. Who deserves your vote could all come down to this.
Tēnā tātou katoa. There are just 17 days to go, and we are live from the Q Theatre in downtown Auckland with 200 undecided voters here in the House. We are here to debate the future of our country, and we have a whole section of our audience who really, truly are the future. This is our youth wing. They are all under 25 years of age. Welcome. All right, let's rip into this and bring in our leaders, Labour leader Chris Hipkins and National leader Christopher Luxon. Christopher Luxon, you won the coin toss tonight, so the first question of the debate goes to you. Is crime out of control in New Zealand?
Oh, it's absolutely out of control. Every New Zealander feels less safe in their home, their business and community, and it's because we've had a government that frankly has been soft on crime.
All right, Chris Hipkins, is crime out of control in New Zealand?
Crime's always a challenge. You solve crime by putting more police on the beat, giving them the resources they need and making sure you're changing the law so that police can actually keep up with the challenges that they face. That's what we're doing. You don't solve crime by starving the police of resources, which is what the last national government
did. And we're going to come to that though, but the question was, is crime out of control in New Zealand? You said it was a challenge. Is it out of control or not?
There are some areas of crime, particularly around youth offending and around gangs, where we've got more work to do. Other areas of crime are going down.
Okay, before we get into the debate, and we're going to start with crime, I just want to acknowledge anyone innocent caught up in the incident in West Auckland today before we start the debate, because I am going to start with a scenario for both of you to put yourselves in the shoes of. It's midday, you're in your local dairy, and a young shoplifter, let's say they're 13 years old, comes out of the store running away with some stuff that they've stolen. I want to know whether you two have the chance to stop this person. What would you do? Coming to you, Chris Hipkins.
If you can stop them safely, then of course you'd want to stop them safely.
So you would stop them safely?
But actually you've got to, people have to keep themselves and those around them safe. This is the job of the police, and if they're going to put themselves in harm's way and risk extra injury to themselves or to others, they should leave the job to the police.
The question was about what you would do. Would you try and stop that person?
It would depend on the circumstances of whether I could do something safely or not.
Would you try and stop
Yeah, I think you would. I think most New Zealanders actually believe that that's what they want to do, and you've seen examples of that recently in recent weeks. But it comes because there's an immense frustration that actually crime is out of control. We've seen it. Retail crime's up over 100%.
You
do so safely.
Would try and stop that person.
I would do so safely. But the sad thing is, I do not want to condone or encourage people to take, action into their own hands. That's not what they're there to do. But people are feeling frustrated about it. And you talk to those shop owners and those shopkeepers, they go to work each day as if they're going into a war zone.
We'll come to them, because do you think you would find that scenario frightening, the two of you, if you saw that? Would that be scary?
Absolutely.
Yeah, I would be. Yep.
Yeah, and the reason I ask that is because we do actually have a shopkeeper here in the audience sitting with us. Her name is Preeti. She's just up there, and she has a shop where she is robbed all the time, ram-raided. She's been held up. She's got fog cannons. She's got an alarm. She's got a security gate, and it still keeps happening. The latest incident involved young offenders who smashed their way into her store to steal vapes, lollies and energy drinks. Now, Preeti says, and this is really important, that New Zealand has changed, and she wants to know what you two will do with the lawlessness we face. What is one initiative that you have to prevent youth crime, not what she's facing. Chris Hipkins.
We've got a program to identify who those young offenders are and turn their lives around. Simply locking them up or sending them to boot camps where they come out and re-offend again isn't going to change things. Dealing with the dysfunction that's in their lives so that they don't re-offend, and bearing in mind the program I'm talking about has a 70 to 80% success rate. 70 to 80% of the kids who we've identified and put through this program aren't going on to re-offend. That's the sort of approach that we've got to take.
Chris Luxon. Well,
that doesn't work. Retail crime's up 100%. We need to have serious.
Don't work.
We need to have serious consequences for serious. Let me hear me. We're going to have serious consequences for serious young offenders, and yes, that's going to include military academies for 15 to 17-year-olds, and we're going to put community organisations in there from day one. Because I can tell you, Chris, actually our military leaders are our best leaders and mentors. Community organisations working on literacy,
80% of kids went on to re-offend after being in boot camps.
Look, we're based it off the LSV program, which works incredibly well.
The LSV program does not work. It results in more people offending after they come out again.
But what you're doing is not working, Chris. You have to face up to this. You like to say things, but that doesn't make it so.
80% of people not re-offending versus 80% who do.
Yeah,
I'll choose the program where 80%
with boot camps,
don't
and I'll just
re-offend.
jump in here if I could. One of the issues with boot camps is that they've previously been proven not to work.
And that's what we're going to do, is we're going to take the LSV program, which is for slightly older kids up to the age of 25.
There is no evidence
base to demonstrate this is going to work. Chris, let me finish. We're going to have 15 to 17-year-olds available in those programs for a year with our military leaders, our best mentors and leaders, and we're going to have the community organisations in there with them. And
Chris Hipkins, you've got this.
Repeating the same mistake over and over again is going to give you a different outcome. The National Party tried that. Repeating the same mistake over and over again is not going to give you a different outcome. If the National Party hadn't starved the police
for a year and
of resources, closed police stations because they couldn't afford to keep them open, then actually maybe we wouldn't have so many of these challenges in the first place.
Chris,
we've put 1,800 more police on the beat. If the National Party hadn't starved the police of resources, we wouldn't have so many problems.
All right, now just breaking in here, we are really getting going, by the way. And on that, both of you, I actually asked you, what could you do to prevent this crime from happening that Preeti is facing, to actually prevent it? Do you have something? Both of those are programs that will stop offenders out in the future. What can actually prevent it?
I think
making sure these young New Zealanders are engaged in something positive and constructive so they're not getting into trouble in the first place. That's absolutely where our focus has got to be. Do you know what? In terms of the kids that we've identified who have been involved in repeat retail offending, 80 to 90% of them are living in a household with someone who's been to prison or is otherwise involved in the corrections system. We've got to break the cycle of offending.
We want to invest in what's called social investment. That means powerful, targeted intervention in these young people's lives. Tackling
and yet you've just said that you're opposed to the policy that I've just outlined, which is a social investment approach. It's not going to make great TV
if we're talking over the top of each other.
Yeah, let him answer.
Calm down. So what I'd say to you is we need to make sure that we're actually investing very strongly in these families and these young people by actually making powerful, targeted interventions in their life. Bill English was on to something called social investment.
We're going to move on now, you two, to a topic I'm sure you both want to talk about as well, which is gangs. Yep. There are about 9,000 gang members in New Zealand. Christopher Luxon, I'll come to you first. You want to take their patches off them, don't you?
Yeah, I mean, let's be clear. In Australia, the gangs actually are reacting to the laws that we want to introduce by forming their own political party. In this case, they just have to vote for Labor, and that's what they're doing.
That is
and I'll just say to you...
That is absolutely
it's unacceptable. And I'll just put it to you, Chris, you don't give gang members who are hooking our kids up to meth $2.7 million for rehab services.
So why did John Key
give it to much better rehab providers and gang members?
So why did John Key introduce that? That's a policy introduced under John Key's government. If it's so wrong, why did they do it?
Let me hear what we're going to do on gangs, Pat.
Well, I'll ask you about...
Why did John Key introduce that policy? If it's so bad, why did he introduce it?
Chris, I'm just struggling to... I think Paddy's the moderator here. So I know you're keyed up, and I appreciate you've got to come out here and have a bit of a fight. That's good. Let's do that, but let's do it respectfully.
So are you actually going to get the police to take 9,000 patches off these gang members?
We are going to ban gang patches in public places, as they have been already in government buildings, and it's proved to be very effective. To wear a gang patch in public, you have to have done something violent and intimidation. That is unacceptable. Are you actually going to take the patches off? We're going to give them powers to police around dispersal powers, and so they actually...
I'm asking you, are you going to get the cops to take the patches off them?
We are going to ban gang patches being worn in public
places. Are they going to go and rip
we did in government buildings?
Are they going to go and rip...
Same process.
Are they going to go and rip the patches off them or not?
I'm telling you, they're going to make sure they're not wearing gang patches, and they make sure...
Chris Hipkins...
They're going to make sure that they're actually breaking up dispersal powers.
OK, I'm not sure if we know whether they're going to take the patches or not, so I'll come to you, Chris Hipkins, because Why are you going to let them have the damn patches?
Because this is not the #1 issue.
We
that's
do it
going
in
to
government
resolve
buildings.
Gang crime.
We do it in government buildings.
Christopher wants to disperse gang activity, but he's going to take the patches off it. How are police going to identify who the gang members are if you've taken their gang patches off them?
Well, wouldn't it be good if we didn't?
All right, we'll stay with you, Chris Luxon. We're going to let you explain this, actually, because, you know, I'll give you another scenario where you can actually put this policy into place. Like, let's say there is a gang funeral for a mongrel mob member in a small town in New Zealand, okay? Your policy is in place. 500 people turn up to this funeral with their patches on. There are families and children there, and lots of those people who are attending hate the New Zealand police. Do you expect the police to go in there and confront them over the patches? Is that how it would work?
Yes, I do, and I expect them to go in there with the powers that we give them to break intimidating up behaviour up from gangs.
You would need thousands of police to do that.
Just let me answer the question. We had an exact example of that, where the gangs came to a potiki, and what actually happened was the school was shut for a week, and actually the bus services were suspended, and people were living in fear and intimidation.
Sure. So
why
you
are
would
gang
get the
members'
cops to go in...
rights greater than that of the rest of New Zealand? That doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, so you would get the cops to go into the funeral. That's what you want.
We are going to give the police the powers to break up gangs. The message is very clearly is gang life is not a pathway for young people to pursue. And so you need to...
We have seen these laws in Queensland, we've seen them in Western Australia. Is that police go and start a brawl with gang members in the middle of a funeral.
And what's your answer,
That isn't going to be a realistic answer.
Just accept that gang life is...
No, we've changed the law. We've changed the law so that the police can go after the gangs after the fact. They can take their motorbikes off them after the fact. They can go and chase them up after the fact. Telling them to go into a funeral and break that up would require thousands of police, and it would be a dangerous situation. You would be putting them in harm's way.
Gang members are up 70% under your watch. We have 9 gang members for every 10 police officers.
From Australia.
9 gang members for every 10 police officers.
Okay, Chris, we'll come to your policy.
You're not answering
You've announced a policy on this sort of thing, which is you would give police the powers to seize vehicles used in the kind of convoys that we'd see at a funeral like this, wouldn't you?
We want to go after their guns, their convoys, their cash, and make sure that
how are you going to go after?
Haven't done it.
How do you expect police to go after a convoy?
Police already are. They have used the law change that we put in place to follow up after that Opotiki event that Christopher Luxon has just talked about. There have been charges laid against gang members as a result of the law change that we have made.
Because police let those convoys, they helped those convoys go through under you, didn't they? They actually helped convoys go through.
And they did under National as well. They have to preserve public safety.
Worse.
Telling police to go in and break up hundreds of people getting together in a volatile situation will actually put the police in more danger.
But you're
following it up afterwards to make sure that people who break the law and break the rules face the consequences of that. That is the more responsible thing to do.
But your policy, you say it's responsible, but you let the convoys intimidate first. Right. You potentially help them through the town and take photos of them while you're doing it.
But Christopher's just indicated that he's going to put thousands of police into breaking up a funeral of 500 people. I don't think that is the right way to approach.
Okay, let's talk about those police, because I know both of you want to talk about police and police numbers, because you've both got policies to bring in 300 new police officers, and you've both got policies to be tough on gangs.
Well, no, one of us does, one of us doesn't. I mean, the results of the results.
Okay, here's a commitment that both of you can make about it then. Will either of you make sure that New Zealand always has more sworn police officers than gang members? Will you make that commitment to New Zealand right here, right now?
Absolutely, because we have 9 gang members today for 10 police officers, and several of our policing districts we have already more gang members than we have police officers.
Will you make that commitment as well to keep us having more sworn police than gang members?
Yes, because we've got 1,800 more police on the beat under our government because we've trained more. The number of police relative to the New Zealand population went backwards under the last national government.
So you've made this promise to New Zealand. I'll just give you the numbers so that we can hold it to you. There's 9,000 gang members at the moment, and there's 10,700 cops. So you will keep that number of cops above.
I want less gang members and more cops, yep.
That is exactly what I want as well.
All right, now I'm just going to move on to drug laws and drug crime. MDMA is the drug of choice for many young New Zealanders. Do you think someone who goes to Rhythm and Vines at New Year's Eve and takes MDMA is a criminal? Christopher Luxon.
Look, I think we've got the right approach to it at the moment, which is a health approach to it, and I think it's entirely appropriate.
It's under the Crimes Act. It's not a health approach.
Yeah, but
are people who take MDMA on New Year's at Rhythm and Vines, are they criminals?
Personally, no, they're not.
They're not criminals?
No, I don't think they are.
So you'll change the MDMA law then?
What I'd say to you is I think there's things that we can do to actually make sure that at festivals we've got good drug testing and all that sort of good stuff.
Because if they're not criminals, you're going to have to take it out of the Crimes Act.
Well, no, sorry, what I'd say is they are criminals. I want to be clear.
So
MDA is criminal. But what I'd say to you is you can actually test drugs in festivals. That's quite possible to do.
All right. That's a pretty big U-turn in the first break of the part. Chris Hipkins, I better come to you now. He's lost his shot. Are they criminals or not? People at Rhythm and Vines taking MDMA, are they criminals or not?
Under the law, they are.
Yeah.
But the reality is we put in place a program of drug testing at festivals which the National Party opposed.
Should that law change? Are they criminals in your eyes, and should that law change?
I'm always open to reviewing our laws around drugs. We have to treat drug use as a health issue rather than as a criminal issue.
Well, you treat it as a criminal issue at the moment.
Yeah, you treat it as
So anyway, a quick question before the break. And for decades, our politicians here and around the world have been asked whether they've smoked cannabis or not. Tonight, we're going to change it up. Have either of you done MDMA? Chris Hipkins?
No.
All right.
Because it's
Coming
criminal.
up, we are going to talk cost of living and who will put more money in your pockets. This is Newshub's Leaders Debate live from the Q Theatre in Tāmaki Makaurau, and we are talking the cost of living now. Now, we got Infometrics to run the numbers for us on the total extra amount that Kiwi households are having to pay for rent, transport, food and other living expenses compared to 3 years ago. Now, this is quite shocking. It's about $240 a week, and for people who've refixed mortgages, it's probably even higher. Now, many Kiwis tonight watching this are in survival mode. So which of you is going to ease the pain sooner?
Well, we are, because we actually know how to run the economy and manage it so we can actually reduce the causes of inflation. There are two numbers that New Zealanders need to know tonight, 80% and 100 billion. There has been an 80% increase in government spending, and yet we haven't seen an 80% improvement in health, education, roads, infrastructure, anything in this country. And as a consequence, this government, under Chris, is actually just frankly addicted to spending, therefore they tax more and they borrow more.
$100 million a week.
And we're up to
$100 million a week for superannuitants that you call wasteful spending.
$100 billion worth of debt.
So let's talk about the $1 billion.
Let's talk about the $100 billion.
Luxon likes to talk about that. 150 million of that goes to superannuitants. Are you saying that's wasteful spending?
No, but what I'm saying to you,
$200 million of it goes to health. Are you saying that that's wasteful spending?
You have driven up
100 million of that goes to education. Are you saying that's wasteful spending? You're saying those things are wasteful spending. You're putting more money into superannuitants, into health, into education, into housing. That's not wasteful spending. Paying people more money so that they can actually pay their bills. That's not wasteful.
And that's what we want to come back to, is people who want to pay their bills rather than sort of the bickering about the debt. We can actually come to that a bit later.
No, it's important as to what's caused it though, Paddy. And what has happened is failed economic policies.
Who is going to ease the pain for people quicker?
The number one thing you do in a cost of living crisis is focus on getting inflation back down again.
Well,
there's been a spike in inflation around the world.
No,
we're winning that battle on inflation.
Driven.
Inflation is coming down. The second thing you do is support people with targeted measures that are actually going to make a practical difference to them. Things like cutting the cost of early childhood education,
or
taking away prescription fees, making public transport cheaper, particularly for our young New Zealanders who actually find it harder to get around during a cost of living crisis.
Forget your GST.
We're making public transport cheaper.
He doesn't mention that anymore, though. He doesn't mention.
What about your GST policy?
We have done already. The things that we want to do in this campaign, like taking GST off fruit.
Hey, we're going to ask about the one you didn't mention there, which is the GST.
You asked me a question.
Yeah, but I'm going to ask you
what about the GST off your fruit and veggies?
So let me ask a question about it.
What about the 50 cents off the beans and carrots?
GST off fruit and veg. I mean, can you assure the people watching tonight that an orange, which costs pretty much $1 at the supermarket at the moment, under your policy, it should cost 85 cents. Unless the supermarket machine sort of sucks it up. So
it will.
Can you guarantee people tonight that that orange will actually, that $1 orange will actually cost 85 cents. Can you guarantee that?
I think everyone will understand that there are seasonal fluctuations in the price of fruit and veggies. An orange in the winter costs more than an orange in the summer, and that is always going to be the case. But fruit
We're
and
talking
veggies,
about an orange today that costs $1.
Fruit and veggies overall.
The season isn't going to change.
Fruit and veggies overall will not pay GST. So
Okay, so you can't guarantee it.
No, but Paddy, what he has is he has a person out there with a clipboard going around all the stores in New Zealand, checking out the prices of orange to guarantee that you'll get your 85 cents for your orange.
Yeah.
We're going to make sure that there's proper competition in supermarkets so that they don't keep
Okay,
fleecing.
speaking of clipboards,
no economist in the country
speaking
says
of
that the
clipboards
consumer will get that.
speaking of
That's a
clipboards
tax
and
that's signal.
economists, there's been a few questions about your tax policy as well. Okay. I know that you refuse to release your costings, and I think everybody's seen and heard that, and we're not going to relitigate it
Because his
tonight,
numbers don't add up.
No, it's not true.
But you can, you can clean it up by you can clear that up by answering this for Kiwis right now. Will you resign if that policy doesn't bring in the foreign cash that you reckon it will? Will you resign?
What I would resign over is not delivering tax relief for low and middle income.
So he's not answering the question again.
That's not the
He never
question.
answers the question, does he?
Let me answer the question. The tax plan. Just
The question is this.
Yep.
Will you resign if you don't bring in the foreign cash or not? Just tell
I
New
am
Zealanders
deeply
now.
committed to delivering tax relief to low and middle income New Zealanders. No, but it's important you understand.
Still no answer.
No, important to understand it. Well, Chris, there's no answer
I'm
on
going to give you
GST
one more
off
go.
Fruit and vegetables.
I'm going to give you one more go. Clear it up for Kiwis. Will you resign if your tax policy doesn't bring in the foreign cash that you reckon it will?
Because, no, what I'm interested in is I want to make sure I deliver tax relief to lower
I think that was a no.
I'm giving up. I'm giving up.
That was a
That's
no.
a much better
I've given up.
response.
I've given up. I've given up.
I'll resign over
Okay.
that, but
I've given up, and we're moving on to petrol right now because petrol at the moment is tipped to hit $3.50 a litre by Christmas. Would either of you cut taxes on petrol again, just like the government did temporarily last year to help out struggling Kiwis? Are you prepared to cut?
Well, we
taxes on
are.
petrol?
I mean, we have said we will not increase the fuel excise tax in our 3-year term because actually until
It's not
we
a
get
cut.
No, but Chris is actually increasing it.
That's
so
a
the point
very
is,
tricky answer that you're getting from Christopher Luxon. What he said is that through the emissions trading scheme, they're going to increase the price of carbon. That would push the price of petrol up. So he's actually giving with one hand and taking more with the other.
So you don't want the price of an ETS to go up? To actually pay to polluters?
Not by the amount that you want it to go up by.
Yeah, yes, that's not true.
By cutting all of the initiatives around climate change, you're going to push the price of carbon up more.
Will you take the tax off petrol to help out Kiwis? Just as a yes or no now.
Here's the deal.
So it's a no and a no.
It's a no.
Well, no, what we're not going to do is we're not going to increase the fuel excise tax, which Chris will do in the first term.
They're
we're
going to
not
push up the
do
price
it
of petrol by
until we
pushing
get
up the
inflation
ETS
back
price
under 3%,
instead.
because that's actually how we help people actually navigate the cost of living.
Okay, now
And we'll get rid of the Auckland regional fuel tax too.
poverty is an issue in this country, and New Zealand has
And
a
introduce
target.
congestion charging. You missed that out.
We're all both.
Okay.
We're going to introduce
Hey
congestion
guys,
charging.
we
So
moved
give
on
with
from
one hand, take with the other.
petrol long ago. We're talking poverty now. New Zealand has a good
I'm
target.
still thinking about his oranges, to be honest with you.
New Zealand has a target to get 80,000 kids out of poverty by 2028. They call it material hardship.
Yeah.
Chris Hipkins, will you recommit to that target?
Absolutely.
And will you achieve it?
Yes.
Christopher Luxon, will
Absolutely.
you commit
We're
to that
committed
target?
to those targets as well.
And you will achieve it?
And we've lifted 77,000 kids out of poverty in the last 6 years. And we've done that by changing one of the ways we've done that is by changing the way benefits are calculated. Christopher wants to reverse that change and force more kids back into poverty. That is the effect of the welfare policy that they announced yesterday. More kids in poverty in New Zealand.
No, that's not true. That's not fair. What our
Well, it
response
is true. It is actually true. It is actually true.
No. No, I mean, what we announced yesterday was actually saying if you've been deemed available and capable of working, that actually the rights and responsibilities in New Zealand are very simple, that you have obligations to either get a job and then or otherwise prepare yourself to be able to get a job.
You also announced you're going to change the way benefits are calculated.
So what we want to be able to do is to make sure that there is actually obligations, that people are very clear about that. And I think that's a reasonable thing. We've got people waking up this morning, going to work, paying their taxes, slogging their guts out, giving the money to Chris.
And you called them bottom feeders.
You called them bottom feeders. Wasting it on actually
low-income New Zealanders bottom feeders.
And we need to be able to
give
give
bottom feeders.
We need to be able to give that money to make sure that money isn't going to people who need help, but they have obligations as well. I think that's a reasonable deal.
Good answers there by both of you. All right. But we are going to change things up now, and I need a one-word answer. I need a one-word answer on this next question.
Paddy, this is turning into the chase.
Let's talk about... it's better than the chase. Let's talk about the bigger picture. Now, in one word, how would you describe the economy right now, Chris Hipkins?
Recovering.
Broken.
All right. Now, that's both two very different answers. Let's talk about how you're going to manage this recovering or broken economy. Labor released its plan to pay for all its election promises today. Christopher Luxon, where's yours?
Ours is coming on Friday.
Why isn't it out tonight? Because voting's open.
Our view has been that there's a deteriorating set of books. We also have a situation where Chris has actually been playing quite a game where actually there are fiscal cliffs around things like Farm Act funding or school lunch funding.
Christopher promised that he would release his fiscal plan
we'll have it available
before people
Friday
started
morning.
voting. Christopher, if you can't keep your promises in opposition, why should New Zealanders believe you'll keep your promises in government?
Well, Chris, let's
Okay, here is it. Let's get down to some cold hard facts.
Let's talk about his fiscal plan.
No, let's talk debt. I'm sure you want to talk debt. It's a cold hard fact, and it means whichever one of you wins the election, you're going to have hardly any money to spend. Now, both of you admit that you are going to have to cut some stuff, quite a lot of stuff. You say $8 billion worth of cuts. You say $4 billion worth of cuts. Let's make this real for people at home. How many thousands of public sector jobs are going to have to go under those cuts? Make it real. Be honest, Christopher Luxon.
Well, that's not the way to approach it, though, Paddy. What we want to do is say there's got to be a 6.5% saving generated from those core agencies.
How many jobs?
And frontline. That's going to be up to the CEOs. Of those
thousands of jobs.
Well,
how many thousands of jobs?
I don't know, Paddy. What we need to say to people is generate.
How many thousands of jobs?
What I'm interested in is the savings, Paddy. The 6.5%. They may decide not to fill vacancies. They will stop dumb projects.
I'm going to bring you in here. So, how many thousands of jobs is it?
So, to be clear, I set out $4 billion worth of savings, exactly where they're going to come from, and I believe that we can make those savings without reducing significantly the number of people who are in work. Christopher's plan is on top of that.
Yeah.
So those are savings they want to make those are cuts they want to make on top of that.
The ACT Party have been honest. They say it's going to be 15,000.
And I've been honest, saying it's going to be a $6.5% savings.
That's
and the way
thousands
that
of people
CEOs
out of
do
work
that
before Christmas.
is they may well have some
thousands of people out of jobs before Christmas.
They may well actually decide to stop dumb and wasteful programs.
Why won't you say how many
jobs? And they may also decide not to fill vacant jobs that are available as well. So that's the better way to approach it. We're going to protect the frontline services.
We're going to move on to immigration now.
Show us your numbers. You've got no numbers to demonstrate that that's actually going to happen.
You've got 200
How many
people
jobs is it going to be? It's a simple question. How many jobs is that going to
And I've just explained to you, a 6.5%.
You haven't got an answer to that.
And that will be up to the CEOs to generate those savings so that we can actually reinvest it in the stuff that matters and actually deliver tax relief for
thousands of people out of work.
But Chris, you've hired 14,000 more public servants.
I'm just going to break in here.
Almost $2 billion on consultants.
You've got to actually stop.
And Chris has turned the country into a country of bureaucrats.
We've got a whole lot of other stuff to debate. And coming up after the break, we'll be talking nurses, doctors, cancer, and our healthcare system. Is it broken? Welcome back to the Newshub Leaders Debate. Now, 3 years ago, Jacinda Ardern stood right there on the stage and said our health system was broken. She said to give her another term to see what Labor would do with it. Since then, we've got de facto order. Chris Hipkins, is it fixed?
It's a work in progress. Our health system has had to guide New Zealand through a global pandemic. It's been under enormous pressure. Yes, things are getting better. Do I want them to get better faster? Of course I do. But we started with a broken health system, and you don't turn that around overnight.
OK, it's a work in progress. What do you call it?
No, it's still broken. We have fantastic people working in our healthcare system, but the system is broken. And the reality is every single wait list has gone backwards under Labor in the last 6 years.
There was a global pandemic.
So you've got to look at things like... yeah, but...
All right, so it's a work in progress and it's still broken.
But it's not a work in progress, though, Paddy. It is broken.
Okay.
And it's not fair to people working
Either way,
in it to
there's
say
some stuff in it that needs fixing, isn't there? There's some
Yep.
stuff in it that needs fixing. And tonight, we're going to be able to fix something right here, right now, if you're prepared to do it. And I'm talking about bowel cancer screening. It's our second biggest cancer killer. 1,300 Kiwis are dying from it every year, and they're getting younger and younger. But caught early, there's a 90% chance of survival. Sitting in our audience right up there is Amy Rose Yates. She's got stage 4 terminal bowel cancer, and she's in her early 30s. The national age for screening in this country is 60. Her question is, will either of you lower the age of screening and save the lives of Kiwis?
Yeah, I'd like to do that. And we've also said we'd like to do it on breast cancer screening. We're extending it from 69 to 74, saving 65 lives. It makes sense that we should do the same on bowel cancer.
So what will you bring it?
Because, Paddy, here's the problem, right? We have a 15% higher mortality rate on cancer than the equivalents in Australia do. And so we actually have to close that cancer gap big time.
Okay, so the bowel cancer screening, do you want to bring it down as well, Chris Hipkins? Will you
Yes,
make
absolutely,
that
I do.
So you'll make that commitment to bring it down?
Absolutely.
All right, so both of you, I just need... We just need to press further on it because I do want to sort this out. The age in Australia is 50 or 45 if you ask for it. Will you commit to matching Australia on bowel cancer screening?
Yeah, we did the same on breast cancer. We looked at what happened in Canada, the UK and Australia. It's 74, and I think we should use those same measures.
So you will bring it down to that? Chris Hipkins?
Yes.
All right, thank you, both of you, and thank you for coming. Okay, just over a month ago, Hatahone St John faced one of its worst days in the Waikato. Almost every ambulance in the region was parked up on the ramps, waiting for hours to get into the emergency department. This has become so common in our hospitals that there is even a name for it now, ramping. Is this okay? And what are you going to do about it?
No, it's not. Then one of the top goals of our health system has to be to keep people out of hospital in the first place. By doing things like making prescriptions free, we're actually giving people the medication they need so they don't end up in hospital. The number of people ending up in our EDs for basic stuff because they're not getting their medications because they can't afford the $5 fee at the pharmacy is alarming. We can do something about that. National wants to put that $5 fee back on. What that's going to mean is more people ending up in our EDs with avoidable conditions. Making sure our homes are healthy. The number of people who end up in hospital with
now you've given us your whole policy program. What will you actually do to stop ramping, Christopher Luxon?
Yeah, well, we actually have to improve our local homegrown workforce, and that actually means we have 4,600 nurses short with 1,700 doctors short. We actually have to grow people into our medical workforce.
There's 5,000 more nurses now than there were when we became
But Chris, it doesn't matter. There's 4,500 short and you're 1,700 doctors short. Wait times for people who spend more than 6 hours in an emergency department waiting has gone from 9% of Kiwis used to wait more than 6 hours. Today, over 30% of us wait more than 6 hours. That's one of those wait list times that's gone backwards.
And avoiding people ending up in ED is one of the ways that we can deal with it.
I agree with that, but that is the major challenge that we have. And all of those wait list times have gone backwards. And if you've got a cancer diagnosis today and it takes you 4 months to get your first specialist appointment and 4 months to get your first surgery, that is the difference between life and death.
You know what?
And those targets matter because they save lives.
And you know what? But hang on, this is really important, Paddy, because you know what happened when those targets were in place under National? Under National, they had a target around people getting their first specialist assessment appointment within a certain period of time. I've got letters from constituents where their doctor referred them and they got a letter back from the DHB that said, we have to see you within 6 months, we can't see you within 6 months, so we're not even going to put you on the waiting list.
But Chris, that's the
targets got absolutely rorted.
Quick question to both of you about nurses, because both of you have brought up nurses.
Your targets meant people missed out on health care.
Well, Chris, targets save lives and taking them away doesn't help.
Give the nurses some respect. Show our nurses some respect, right? Do you think that nurses that work for GPs should be the same as nurses who work at our hospitals?
Yes.
You do?
Yep.
So you will, because at the moment
whether they're in aged care, whether they're at GP community practices or whether in the DHB equivalent system, they should be paid the same.
So you will do that if you win?
Yes.
Chris Hipkins, you've got a chance to say you'll do it as well if you win.
Yes, and we put $200 million in just this year to achieve that. But Christopher, again, is making a whole lot of promises with no money to pay for that.
Paddy, I've got to say, this negativity from Chris isn't good for him. Right? Actually, I mean, I feel like I should give him a hug or something. I mean, it's not working for him, right? I mean,
you don't like to be challenged.
No, the last few weeks, man. The last few weeks, man, you've been very negative. It's sort of, it's not you.
So,
it's not you.
You don't like being challenged. If you actually answered any of the questions, I wouldn't need to challenge you quite so much.
You've got to give it up.
Okay, we are 4,800 nurses short, 1,700 doctors short, and 1,000 midwives short in this country right now. Right here, as you know, we've got a whole audience of under 25s, and there'll be plenty more at home streaming and watching this. I want you to give them, any of them who are considering their careers, a one-sentence pitch on why they should work for our health system?
Because there's 2,000 nurses and midwives graduating every year. For everyone we train, we sort of lose one. What I'm going to do is say, if you commit your services to the New Zealand medical system for 5 years and bond yourself to the New Zealand system, I'll take $22,500 off your student loan, so we actually retain you in this great country.
That's the longest sentence I've ever heard. Got it back, so... One sentence pitch on why someone here should join our health system.
When I've spoken to nurses in our hospitals, they've told me that it's one of the most rewarding jobs they could ever hope to have. They help people in their hour of need, and they get a lot out of that.
Okay, so
we need to make sure that we're rewarding them properly. They've had big pay increases under us, and I'm committed to making sure that they continue to get pay increases, which they didn't get under the last national government.
Chris,
but we've got to recognise that actually we've got to talk.
So you're going to give the nurses another pay rise? That's what you're committing to?
When they next go into bargaining, yes, of course.
Yeah. All right. Now, a question for both of you, moving on from health right now, and a serious question. Do you think we are a racist country, Chris Hipkins?
I don't think we're a racist country, but I think some of our politicians are certainly playing the race card in this election.
Is one of them in this room? You said that. Is one of them in this room?
Well, he certainly wants to work with people who are.
Oh, that is unacceptable. Look, we are not a racist country. We are not a racist country, but there are people who are racist within New Zealand. But it doesn't make us a racist country.
Paddy, I've got a quote I want to give you. This is a quote from last week, and it's from a New Zealand First candidate speaking at a Meet the Candidates meeting. And I get a bit angry about this because this is a direct quote. And he's talking about Māori. He said, "Cry if you want to, we don't care. You pushed it too far. We are the party with the cultural mandate and the courage to cut out your disease and bury you permanently." Christopher, you're willing to work with these people. Why?
Well, I'll tell you why, because I'll tell you what's going to happen is I don't want to work with New Zealand First, but I am going to make the call if it means that I stop you to Party Māori and the Greens coming to power in 3 years.
Do you think that's racist?
I do. I don't think that's acceptable at all.
So why are you willing to have them sitting around the cabinet table?
I don't think that's acceptable at all. But what I'd say to you is, I'm being clear about it. I want people to understand what's at risk at this election.
Winston Peters
described migration to New Zealand as an Asian invasion.
Okay, guys, I have to come in here.
And you worked with them for 3 years,
and
Chris.
I'd never do it again.
Yep, and he's worked with you for 27 years. Yep.
All right, I'm going to... And trust me, we will be talking about Winston Peters later in this debate, but we're getting there earlier than anybody wants to, believe you me. Now, coming back to co-governance, you might have noticed that it's quite a divisive topic. Just the two of you there were really getting quite divisive. Now, what I want to know from you is something aspirational. You know, how can we unite the country? How can we unite the country, Chris Hipkins?
I think we can unite the country by not playing into that sort of division, like the quote that I have just read out. We can call that out. We can say that that's racist, and we can say that it's not acceptable, and we can say that we won't work with the people who are perpetuating that kind of stuff.
All right, Christopher Hipkins, what can we do? Well, Christopher Luxon. Had to happen at some point.
It was going to happen. But look, I can tell you, we are one country. We are actually all New Zealanders. We should be incredibly proud about the identities and the communities that we all come from. It's made New Zealand a much better and a much richer place, culturally, economically, socially. It's a good thing. I think we need to be able to work much harder at uniting our country and actually setting a vision of where we want to go as a country over the next few years.
All right, coming up, we are going into our schools and we are talking education. We are live in Central Auckland. This is the Newshub Leaders Debate. Now, both of you leaders want to ban stuff in our schools. Christopher Luxon, you want to ban cell phones. Chris Hipkins, you don't. Why not?
Schools can ban cell phones now, and they have my full support when they do that.
Chris Hipkins, you want to ban sugary drinks. Christopher Luxon, why not? You don't want to ban them.
Schools can make that decision, and many already have, frankly. Yep.
Okay, this is kind of weird. Why don't you just ban both of them?
There's a clear evidence base for banning sugary drinks in schools. We know that it leads to tooth decay. It also leads to more behavioural challenges for the teachers in the classrooms.
And there's clear evidence for banning mobile phones. We see it with schools that are already doing it across New Zealand and all the international research as well.
Hey, we can sort this out. Just ban both right now. All right, quick question. Did you guys like maths at school?
Yeah, I did actually. I had a really good teacher that turned me on to maths at Cockle Bay Primary School.
Right, okay.
No, I hated it.
Okay. That's a problem for you because we've got a maths question now. A question for both of you. What is 1/2 plus 1/4, 1/2 plus 1/4.
It's
It's not a trick
3/4.
question.
3/4.
3/4, yeah, it's pretty easy, isn't it?
Yeah.
The reason I gave that to you is not to test your maths, but to show people that only a third of our 11 and 12-year-olds could get that answer. Is that good enough, Chris?
No, absolutely not.
Is it good enough, Christopher Luxon?
No, half our kids are arriving at high school not ready to go because they don't have the foundational knowledge in place. You know,
So what's
half
the
our
solution to this?
15-year-olds.
What's the solution to this?
The solution is actually to teach the basics brilliantly in primary and intermediate. That means an hour of maths, an hour of reading, an hour of writing every day.
Wind the
for our
education
kids
system back to the
in primary and
1950s.
intermediate. But Chris, I actually care about it because actually it's not.
So do I.
But
and winding the education system back to the 1950s is not going to help those kids to get ahead. National standards generated a whole generation of people who can't get the basics right because you imposed an ideology on schools that didn't work.
And you were Minister of Education for 5.5 years. You spent $5 billion more. You hired 1,400 more public servants, and school attendance went backwards.
3,800 more classrooms.
And actually,
more teachers in
importantly,
classrooms.
academic achievement went backwards. So when half our kids show up at high school not ready to go, when half our 15-year-olds fail the most basic maths, reading and writing tests, and when we're no longer in the top 10 countries, you don't have enough ambition, and we need our kids to be better trained so they can actually drive our economy forward into the future.
Would you go into a hospital and tell a surgeon how to conduct a surgery?
Chris, we're just going to come.
say to you.
We're going to come to your policy actually of an hour a day. Do you really think that 5 and 6-year-olds can do maths for an hour every day?
There's a way. I have sat with our teachers. They are brilliant, and they bring this to life in amazing and incredible ways, in which that makes it very engaging for our kids to learn. But honestly,
can they really do it for an hour a
teach
day?
The basics well, because actually that's what sets our kids up for success.
Paddy, I want schools to be a place. I want schools to be a place where kids can't wait to get out of bed to get to in the morning. They're so engaged in their learning, they can't wait to get there. Rote learning went out in the 1950s.
It's not
it
rote
doesn't
learning, Chris.
work.
It's not rote learning. I've sat in a school where they actually have a conversation pit, and they go back and they light a fire and they have a lovely time. They go back and write a story about it. There's ways in which our teachers
and you know
bring
what
this to
makes
life.
that work?
It's not
brilliant
like it was.
Brilliant teachers make that work.
They do.
And why do you think you're more qualified to tell them how to teach than they are?
What I'm saying, Chris, is I'm not tolerating, as we try and build one of the best small advanced countries in the world, an education system where 40% of our kids don't show up at school regularly, 65,000 are chronically absent from school, and actually half show up at high school not ready to go, and half the 15-year-olds fail the most basic maths, reading and writing tests. That's not good enough. We need more ambition. We need more aspiration. We teach the basics.
Okay.
And Paddy,
Paddy, you won't get any disagreement from me on the problem. There is absolutely a challenge here. What you won't get from me, though, are the kind of bumper sticker slogans you get from National. It's actually, let's take a step back here. It is a bit more complicated.
It's about outcomes.
The 15-year-olds who are doing those tests today went through their whole primary schooling education under national standards.
And you've had 6 years as Minister of Education to fix it, and you didn't. And here's the problem. When you've got a science curriculum in New Zealand that doesn't mention physics, chemistry or biology, that's a problem.
That's also not true. That's also just not true.
We've got plenty of other problems out in our schools, and one of the biggest ones facing our young people and our schools is the ever-increasing addiction to vaping. Principals say it's their number one problem. There are over 7,000 vape stores in New Zealand. Which one of you is going to bring that down the most? Because that's what parents, principals and students want.
Paddy, I've said that we will have a maximum of 600 vape stores. They will be licensed and they won't be near schools.
Christopher Luxon, can you bring it down like that?
Yeah, we support that direction of travel. I really do. I think actually limiting the distribution.
So how many? How many? Because he's got a policy.
The proposal is 600. Is what's.
So you're going to.
That's my policy. Are you adopting it?
No, exactly. Because what I think on vapes is
no, but
really
he's right about something, isn't he? Because you don't have a policy on vaping.
No, we have our policy. We have our health manifesto coming, and what I'd say is a very similar policy to these guys because it actually makes sense. It actually is it's the next best step. So what's wrong with us actually agreeing on something that's a New Zealand issue rather than making it a party political issue?
Yeah.
But what I'd say, Paddy, is we should do everything we can to strengthen and make and strengthen our settings around it. But then at the end of the day, if we need to do more, we should do more.
There is something in his policy that you might not agree on. You agree on bringing it down to 600, but 300 metres away from a school. It's got to be further than that, doesn't it?
Look, we've said that we want to have a licensing regime. It means
It's 3 rugby fields.
But in some communities, actually, if the school's right in the town centre, there won't be anywhere else to put it.
Just put it further away.
I do want to make sure...
Christopher Luxon, you haven't put your policy out yet. Will it be bigger than 300 metres? Because I'm giving you a chance.
No.
You've got time to make it bigger.
No, but let me just say to you, actually, I mean, in fairness to Chris, what happening is the government policy today is 300 metres away from a school. What its proposal is actually to have 600 stores and limit the distribution points. I think that's a good idea. I think it actually makes sense. Let's try those settings and see how they work. If they don't work after 18 months, then I'm actually even open to looking at prescription only and going even further. But for right now, we should make these settings tougher, and we should do it together in a bipartisan way.
You are prepared, if that's not working, to make vapes
we have to make sure
only.
it works. I mean, I spent time in the US, and it's interesting. They advertise to their young people, do not vape because of the health effects.
Will you make cigarettes prescription only as well?
No, but what we're saying...
But that means that people who currently vape will go back to cigarettes because they won't need a prescription for them.
No, Chris, I'm just saying to you, we should look at what's working, and if it's not working, after we harden up the settings, let's keep the conversation going and find a way to actually stop hooking our kids up to a new issue that we're going to have to deal with for the next 30 or 40 years.
Very quickly, would you look to... Very quickly on that, would you look to go prescription only in the first year of government or something?
No,
like
I think we harden up the settings as has been proposed.
Okay.
We give ourselves 18 months to 2 years, and if we need to do something more, we go further, because what we don't want happening...
Prescription only within the first term of a potential national government?
Potentially.
Yes, okay, all right. Let's talk sex education now, because sex education isn't just about sex anymore. Kids at our primary schools are taught about sex, sexuality and gender. Christopher Luxon, is it a teacher's job to do that?
It's both a teacher and a parental responsibility. Primarily, it should be done by the parents in the home, as teaching the basics should be done by the teachers. But equally, we expect parents to do reading, writing and maths as well, and we should expect our teachers to do sex education as they have done for many years.
So you're happy with gender and everything being taught to our kids in primary school?
Well, what has happened is that in fairness...
Are you happy with it?
Well, no, I'm not, because essentially what's happened... Let me explain what's happened, because it is important.
So what are you going to change?
Is that the government's had a curriculum around sex education and sexuality education, and it's actually got a new one, and it's issued guidelines to schools, and they have been variably implemented up and down the country. What I want is a really defined curriculum that's age appropriate, that experts have had a good look at, that parents are consulted, and then parents still have choice if they don't want to participate.
This is a really long answer.
Well, no, it's important.
It sounds like you want gender out of it.
No, it is important.
What do you think of this?
No, I want it resolved so we have a single curriculum that's actually age appropriate and that parents are consulted about.
Sounds like he wants gender out of there.
No, we have a sex education curriculum now. Schools do have to consult with their parent communities. I can tell you, as a parent with kids at school at the moment, I was consulted on what my kids were being taught about. I agree with that approach. But I do think that schools have a role here. The sad reality is, at home, some kids aren't learning about this stuff, and they do deserve to have those facts.
All right, now moving on, and a quick question before the break. Young members of our rainbow community are much more likely to attempt suicide. What is one thing that you would do to make life better for them?
I'm going to have a dedicated mental health minister, so it sits around the table as an equal issue that actually is then dealing with a lot of the challenges that the rainbow community has. He's going to have a
minister. What are you going to have for our rainbow youth?
Gender diversity isn't just a mental health issue, Christopher.
We were talking about suicide prevention.
Respecting people for who they are is something that we should be encouraging all New Zealanders to do.
Fully agree.
The fact that people have a range, gender diversity, it doesn't mean that there's mental health problems.
What are you going to do?
What are you going to do for them is the question.
I'm going to make sure that as a society we create a society that is tolerant and that respects people for who they are. Because actually the reason that people... The reason we have mental health problems amongst our gender diverse community is because of the judgment that they are facing in our society, and politicians have a role, in a leadership role here, to make sure that they are not treated that way.
Advocating for them.
All right. All right, coming up, we have been ravaged by storms this year, so we are talking resilience, climate change and transport. Good answers. Good answers. Welcome back to the Newshub Leaders Debate, and we will start with climate change. Now, what kind of climate leader do you want to be remembered as, Chris Hipkins?
A very progressive one. Climate change is one of the biggest challenges that humanity faces at the moment. We've got to get our emissions down, because that actually is the biggest contributor to climate change we're experiencing, and our government's been absolutely focused on that. For 3 years in a row now, we've had our emissions going down. The National Party wants to reverse everything that we've done that's been contributing to that. We must keep our progress.
All right, he wants to be progressive.
Yep.
What about you? What kind of climate leader do you want to be?
It's critical that I also am a leader that's actually marching our emissions profile down. We're going to have successive governments between now and 2050, and we need to be able to make sure that actually both governments actually deliver climate emissions reductions. That's important. Let me tell you how we're going to do it. First and foremost, we rely on making sure we've got a proper functioning ETS, which you've actually stuffed up with your interventions on the 3 auctions and actually hasn't gone so well for you.
Petrol prices going up.
But important. Then we also need to say what can governments uniquely do, and what they can do is make sure that we are investing in EV charging networks, make sure that we're doubling the amount of renewable electricity by getting over the top of
You want more EV chargers,
and then
but
we
no
need to make
more
sure we've got a
EVs.
sensible approach to agricultural emissions pricing.
All right, I also want to know what kind of climate leader you will be when it comes to making really tough decisions, like this one about flooding. Are you prepared to tell entire communities that they need to move if that's the best thing to do? Chris Hipkins.
Yes.
Yes, we do have to do that. And we actually need a framework to be able to have those conversations with. And it should be, again, a bipartisan framework, because it's going to be over multiple generations and involves central government, local government,
with all due respect,
landowners.
that's exactly what we've been doing, and you've been complaining that we haven't been making those decisions fast enough. If you want a robust framework that's fair, that's going to take a bit of time.
So
that's why we should be engaged on it. All
but
political
both
parties
of you could commit here to a bipartisan framework on moving our communities that are in the flood zone. You can commit to it right now.
Yeah, I think we should.
I'm very happy to do that.
Yep.
Okay, so... Okay, moving on now to slash, and I want to start with a moral question about slash. Is it the responsibility of forestry companies to clean up the slash? Again, I'll come to you, Chris.
Yes.
Yes, it is. They've lost their social licence to operate and they need to do a better job.
Okay. In the audience, just behind me, are Mike and Bridget Parker. Cyclone Gabrielle smashed their farm in Tolaga Bay. It's still covered in slash and silt. Politicians from both sides have been to visit, and they still feel like they don't have any answers. They want to know if either of you have the courage to shut down forests that are bad neighbours and let slash onto farms and communities like theirs. Do you have the courage to shut down forestry companies like that?
It's not as simple as shutting them down, Paddy, because actually pine trees, if you leave them and you don't cut them down, they can be just as big a danger as if you do cut them down. What we've got to do is make sure that we're cutting them down responsibly, that the forestry companies are cleaning up the mess after they have done that.
So he won't, will you?
I want to see forestry companies having a plan to actually how they plan to harvest their trees and actually be held accountable for doing it in a proper way. And if not, we have really much more serious, harsher penalties on these companies.
So neither of you are prepared to do what Bridget and Mike have asked, which is, are you prepared to shut down these?
Well, absolutely. If they don't deliver on their plan, their harvesting plan, and actually deal with the impacts of slash, they should be held accountable for it. And we should hit them with serious penalties, and there should be serious consequences for it.
And that could include shutting them down.
It may well be.
All right, Chris Hipkins.
But as I said, Paddy, I think...
Okay, if you're not going to do it, you can either say you're going to do it or we can move on.
Individual harvesters absolutely should be held accountable if they're not doing their jobs properly, but not harvesting the trees isn't an option, because actually the trees get dangerous the longer you leave them.
Let's talk about taxpayer-funded discounts on EVs, and you mentioned this before, and also solar panels now as well. Is this the right way to change people's behaviour, Christopher Luxon?
I think what we have to do is recognise we have abundant sources of renewable electricity in this country: wind, solar, geothermal. We want to make the transition from fossil fuels to renewable energy.
So is incentivising the right way?
No, the way to do it is actually to double the amount of renewable electricity we have in this country. And the great thing is, a lot of our electricity companies, they want to do that. They want to make those investments.
By bringing back oil and gas exploration.
No, but at the moment, what they're doing is they're not making those investments, and they need to do it because it's been taking, under Chris's government, 8 years to consent a wind farm. That should be 1 year.
Okay.
It takes 2 years to build it. We should get the benefit of it faster and quicker.
Is it the way to get there?
Absolutely it is, Paddy. We've got one of the fastest uptakes of hybrid and electric vehicles in the world because of the clean car discount. Christopher wants to take that away. That's actually going to increase New Zealand's greenhouse gas emissions. We've got to accelerate the transition to electric vehicles.
But
You're talking about more EV chargers, and you're going to make it more expensive for people to buy EVs in the first place.
Here's the deal. Look at any manufacturer and how many EV vehicles vehicles they're going to be producing. Many of them will be 100% EVs in a very short period of time. That issue has been solved. EVs are going to win, right, because customers and consumers will choose them. They'll get cheaper and they're better products and they'll choose it. What is happening at the moment is
in the short term, you want to make them more expensive.
But we have one public charger for every 95 EVs in this country. It's 3 to 4 times more than what the OECD averages.
Range
anxiety is the next barrier to overcome. No, range anxiety is the thing to solve for people buy EVs.
Come back. Okay. What about incentives for companies to cut emissions? Like, you know, Fonterra getting $90 million to cut emissions, even though it made a $1.6 billion profit. Is that the right way to do things?
We've got to cut our emissions somehow. If we can pay Fonterra and New Zealand Steel to reduce their emissions, or we can pay some other country overseas to offset the emissions that we have in New Zealand. One way or the other.
They made a $1.6 million
one way or the other, we've got
profit.
to cut our emissions. These are actually good investments that we're making that are bringing our emissions down.
But Paddy, I've been a CEO of a global company and also a New Zealand company. I can tell you, CEOs should be doing these investments themselves. Why on earth would you pay $140?
They won't.
No, but listen, Chris. Why on earth would you pay $140 million to an Australian steel company making $2.1 billion worth of
Because
profit?
It cuts 1% of our emissions.
Yes, yes, but they can do that themselves, and they should be held to account. If the ETS was working, the polluter pays, and as a result, that's the incentive.
Okay, come back, Chris. Come back, Chris, because that worked last time. Come back, Chris, because this is important as well.
Petrol up by 40 cents a litre.
And we're going to
just put the price of petrol up by 40 cents a litre. In order to reduce our emissions by the equivalent of the New Zealand Steel deal through the emissions trading scheme, petrol goes up by 40 cents a litre. That's the commitment you've just made.
And Chris, you're giving corporate welfare to big multinational corporations making lots of profit.
And you've just said you're going to put the price of petrol up by 40 cents a litre.
You do not give taxpayers money to companies making $2.1 billion worth of profit.
You've just hiked up the price of petrol.
Speed limits.
Yes.
Right. I'm trying to lower yours, by the way.
Good luck.
Speed limits have been lowered in recent years. Now, you both have said recently that you'll raise them again. Isn't going faster just going to cost lives?
Depends which sort of road. So Transmission Gully, a brand new road, safe. I think a higher speed limit there, which Waka Kotahi are currently consulting on, is probably very safe, could be done very safely. Some of our most dangerous roads, though, there is a case for a lower speed limit on them.
Christopher Luxon, isn't it just going to cost lives bringing this down?
Look, what we need to do is a couple of things. One is we need to make sure that the roads that we're building, like Kapiti Expressway, like Transmission Gully, like the Waikato Expressways, they're built well, they can travel at 110 k's, drives more productivity, that's all good. So
is it going to cost lives, though, or not?
No, if you think about the Waikato Expressway, a well-built road, a good quality road that actually you can travel faster on and is a safer road, that's got to be the ambition for New Zealand.
Okay, we're going to talk about quality. We're going to talk about quality roads right now. We're going to talk about potholes because they aren't quality. They're actually dangerous, and they've also got another side effect is that they make angry dads even angrier. So which one of you is going to fix them?
We're spending more money fixing potholes and repairing our roads than ever before in New Zealand's history.
There's 54,000 potholes in this country, and some poor person's had to count them, I suspect. But what I'd say to you is we're going to spend $500 million on a pothole repair fund because actually that's what improves people's ability to get around this country. People are frustrated. The freight, imagine if you're moving freight in this country on some of our roads. It doesn't make sense.
None of our transport plans add up, though, because you can't say how you're going to pay for any of them.
I've been very clear. We're going to spend $25 billion on 13 roads of national significance.
And you don't know, there's $10 billion that you don't know how you're going to pay for.
Okay, quick question before the break, also on an issue to do with our roads and road cones. Have either of you, and a lot of Kiwis have done this, so don't feel ashamed, stolen a road cone?
I haven't stolen a road cone, but I tell you, we are the best in the world at laying out cones. And if you want a great export business, we should go around the world laying out cones in many other countries too.
It's not a crime.
We did have one in the living room in a student flat that I lived in once, but...
Thank you very much. All right. Okay, very good of you to admit that. Come October 15, these two will be wheeling and dealing, trying to form a government. Who will they work with and what will they trade off? We're talking coalitions and leadership next. Okay, this is the Newshub Leaders Debate, and we are about to test their leadership qualities. Let's start with your principles. And my question is this: do you sometimes have to abandon your personal principles in order to succeed in politics? Christopher
No.
Luxon.
No.
All right, well, I'll come to a couple where I think you might have, and I'll start with you. I'll start with you, Christopher Luxon. You know, a lot of women out there say that they can't vote for you because of your personal principle on abortion. Do you regret saying that it's tantamount to murder?
What I've said very clearly is I would resign over any change to our abortion laws, access or funding. The reality is that our abortion laws were discussed in 2018. They are settled. As Prime Minister, I represent all the views of all New Zealanders. Those laws will stay intact. Our funding and our access will stay intact. And if they change, I'll resign.
You haven't answered the question, though. You were asked whether you think abortion is tantamount to murder.
No, he was asked whether he regrets it, and he can say whether he regrets it.
Well, what I've said is very clearly is if our abortion laws change, I'll resign.
You still haven't answered the question.
Well, we all have different views, Chris, about pro-life or pro-choice views. I've been very clear that actually those laws have been settled. The discussion happened, the debate happened, the laws are settled. I represent all New Zealanders and act in their interests.
Christopher, I can understand why women are nervous, though, because there are a lot of people in your caucus that do want to see the abortion laws change.
That's not going to happen.
You've got members in your team who celebrated the Supreme Court decision in the US, celebrated
and Chris,
the Supreme
you had
Court
members in your
decision in the
caucus
US
that would have had a
to
different
reverse the
position on
abortion
those
laws
laws as well. The key thing is the laws are settled and they won't be changing under my government.
I'm going to move on to you now, Chris Hipkins. You say that you voted for the legalisation of cannabis in the referendum.
Yes, I did.
Okay, it's still illegal, obviously, and people are getting charged with cannabis offences all the time. As someone who hasn't done a single thing about decriminalising cannabis, how can you stand by and watch people get locked up for it?
I recognise the decision of the New Zealand public. The New Zealand public were given that choice and they did not vote for it.
I'm talking about decriminalisation and you abandoning your principles to help people like that.
Look, I wouldn't rule out further changes in the future. I would like to approach this on a bipartisan basis. Issues around drugs and decriminalisation and treating drugs more as a health issue should be approached on a bipartisan basis.
So will you do bipartisan stuff on decriminalisation of drugs, because he's inviting you to do it right now? It's another chance.
Yeah, our party's not supportive of that.
Okay, so there will be no agreement
but a minute
on that
ago,
one.
hang on a minute, earlier in the debate you said you
no, I get it, yeah.
Nobody changed that.
You just...
Okay.
You said...
Okay, quick question for both of you.
Hang on. You can't even keep a consistent position during a debate. A few minutes ago you said that you thought that drugs should be treated as a health issue, not as a criminal issue. Now you're saying you don't support that position.
Chris, I'm quite happy with the settings that we've got today. What I'm saying to you is that's exactly where we are. Yep.
Okay, now a question to both of you, and a quick one, because we don't want to spend all night talking about this guy, and we've already talked about him a little bit already. A question about Winston Peters, and it has to be yes or no. Is he good or bad for this country, Chris Hipkins?
Bad.
That's a decision for the voters of New Zealand.
Yes or no? Is he good or bad?
I don't know him.
Is he good or bad?
I don't know him, and I don't want to deal with him if I have to, but I have to keep Chris out.
Is he good or bad? Yes or no? Because you said you will deal with him if you had to.
I don't know him, Paddy. I don't know him well.
Everybody knows him. It's Winston Peters. Okay, let's move on. You don't know. Okay, apparently you don't know this guy, but we're going to keep talking about this guy you don't know because it's really important, because you are going to know him, believe you me. Let's talk about how you plan to deal with chaos. What is your plan to manage David Seymour and this guy you don't know, Winston Peters, working together? What's the plan?
Well, that's not my preferred preference. That's not my preference.
What's your plan if it comes to pass?
My plan is to make the pitch to the New Zealand people to say, if you want strong, stable government, party vote National.
Tell the New Zealand people how you'll make them work together. Tell the New Zealand people how you'll make them work together.
Just hear me out, because it's important that people understand my position, given Chris wants to talk about it all the time.
There would be a three-ring circus.
Well, no disrespect, you've got a five-ring circus to manage on your side if you get Te Pāti Māori with two co-leaders, the Greens with two co-leaders, and yourself, who can't even manage your own cabinet or your own caucus.
They've all proven that they can work well together. Yep. David Seymour and Winston Peters have been having a crack at each other.
So the story is this really simply. We are at a critical moment in this country. Everyone knows in this room that we have gone backwards over the last 6 years. Another 3 years
we're not having a speech.
Do you ever answer a question straight?
So the question very clearly...
Do you ever actually answer a question?
It's a debate, not a speech, and we'll come to you, because we'll pick this up, because you've got your own chaos to deal with, haven't you, with the Greens, Te Pāti Māori and Labour, obviously. I nearly forgot the third part. But both of those say that a wealth tax is a bottom line. And on the current numbers, that would have to be up for negotiation, wouldn't it, a wealth tax?
No, I've said the Labour Party will not support a wealth tax.
Yesterday said they're still looking at it.
The Labour Party will not support a wealth tax.
Yeah, so would you go into opposition or force another election if they made it a
I don't believe it would ever come to that.
But what if it did?
But I don't believe it would ever come to that.
Okay.
We've worked very constructively with both of those parties previously. The Māori Party worked for 9 years with the National Government. The Green Party have worked constructively
The
with
Māori
us for
Party
6
want to
years.
abolish prisons. Do you want to abolish prisons?
No, and I've been very clear about that too.
But Chris, you're not going to have leverage, right? At the moment, you get 33 seats.
Semi-automatic guns. Are you going
And
to
that's
agree
not
to
going to
that?
happen. Not going to happen. But what you've got 33 seats. They're going to have 21 seats. You've got to tell me they're going to have a lot more leverage on you.
Where's your crystal ball? I didn't know that you had one there.
Okay, crystal balls. Crystal balls will come in handy for this next section because we're going to talk about our place in the world and national security. Now, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs has warned, and I quote here, that conflict could occur in our Indo-Pacific backyard. Very quickly, do both of you think that because of that, we need to spend more money on defence?
We are spending more money on defence.
Okay, so yes, do you think we need to spend more money?
I'd like to get to 2% of GDP ultimately, but we have a number of other fiscal and financial challenges in this country right now.
Okay, so the Ministry of Foreign Affairs has said, you know, this is a conversation we need to have about this potential conflict. Do we need to be ready for conflict? And again, quick answers from both of you.
We need to do everything we can to avoid conflict, Paddy.
Do we need to be ready for it as well?
We need to do everything we can to avoid it.
I know that. Do we need to be ready for it?
We always need to be aware of what's going on in the rest of the world.
Do we need to be ready for conflict, given what the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and Trade is saying about
We need to work really hard to de-escalate and make sure there's peace and prosperity in our region. It's really important.
Do we need to be ready for conflict?
As I said, we need to work really hard to avoid conflict. That's
Okay,
really
sounds like
important.
another one of these bipartisan hugs is about to happen. Okay, so...
Well, actually, Paddy, I think it's actually a good thing, frankly, that actually the National and Labor parties, whoever's in government, actually has a pretty consistent and aligned view on foreign affairs.
Okay, so on a foreign affairs issue, and you both want to raise defence spending, would you guys be prepared to go as far as restoring air combat forces to our military?
No.
Chris?
Again, it's about what is the unique set of capabilities we can bring to our alliance partners, and again, that's the conversation that we need to have. What does
that mean?
Well, but what it means is that in our alliance, in our countries that we are actually in partnership with, it's actually saying what is it that New Zealand can bring to that party and that unique set of skills or capability we've
That
got.
sort of sounds like a no.
But I don't think we're going to get one or two F-35s and call ourselves a strike force. Yep.
Okay. What about drones that kill people? Should we have those?
No.
No, I think we need drones for surveillance around our waterways and other things, yep.
So we will never get drones that kill people under you, Christopher Luxon?
And I wouldn't imagine so, no.
All right, moving on now to AUKUS, which is a new alliance that's forming out there in response to China's military power, growing military power. Actually, the United States, the UK and Australia have formed this new nuclear submarine alliance. There's a second non-nuclear level to the alliance, which is basically cooperating on tech and spying. Christopher Luxon, would you sign up to that alliance?
That's really undefined, what's called Pillar 2 under AUKUS. It's really undefined. We'd need to explore it and understand whether there's anything that New Zealand can participate in.
Are you interested in joining it?
Well, again, it's really undefined and very loose as to what it actually is or isn't, and we don't know enough about what's the scope of it.
So a maybe to joining up this US-led alliance. What about you, Chris Hipkins?
We already cooperate with all three of the AUKUS partners on all of those issues that you have just mentioned, but New Zealand will not sign up to the nuclear proposed submarine part of it, Pillar 1.
The second pillar. The second pillar. He says maybe. What do you say?
Look, as I said, we will cooperate with those partners on those issues, whether it's through AUKUS or some other arrangement. My preference is some other arrangement rather than being part of AUKUS.
We've got to move on now to something else that is a bit of a threat out there, TikTok. And I'm not talking about screen addiction. It's owned by a Chinese company and there's global concerns that it is being used for spying, and countries like India have banned it and at least one US state has banned it. Are either of you prepared to ban TikTok?
Well, no. I'm actually on TikTok. I do it through a separate device and with good security protocols around it.
Because it's not allowed on your parliamentary phone.
Correct, absolutely. And
so you use a burner phone.
Yeah.
Chris Hipkins,
and for those seeing some of what I do on TikTok, I'm not sure it
Chris Hipkins, are you prepared to ban TikTok before we go to the break?
No, I'm not.
All right, well, we're almost there, and after the break, we will be getting fast and loose with you two in my favourite round, the original, the one and only Paddy Gower Quick Fire. Quickfire. The 2026 Commonwealth Games are currently without a home after Victoria pulled out. Should we jump in and host it?
No, that'd be way too expensive.
Quickfire.
Yeah, no.
Okay. Who is New Zealand's greatest Prime Minister?
Well, that's a bit of a tricky question, Paddy.
Quickfire.
Are you going to say Chris Hipkins?
Are you?
You know I like you, but not that much.
I would say Michael Joseph Savage.
I reckon Keith Holyoake did a good job for New Zealand over many years. Yep.
Okay. Now, feral cats are destroying our native taonga species. Should they be treated like a pest, like all the other pests in this country?
Yes.
Feral cats, yes.
So you'll both put them into predator-free 2050?
Absolutely.
Yes.
All right, get on with it, because they need to go. Do you think people with legitimate vaccine injuries should get compensation?
No.
There's a system for managing that through ACC now.
Yeah.
So no compensation for people who got legitimate vaccine injuries?
Nothing additional to what's available. For people who are the victims of medical misadventure, there is support through ACC for that now.
Okay, the second harbour crossing for Auckland, should that be tolled?
Leave that option on the table.
Yeah, I think most likely it will need to be so that we can actually get it built sooner rather than just keep talking about it.
Okay, should Shaun Johnson be given a knighthood?
Yeah, I'm open to that. I think he did a brilliant job, but I think that whole Warriors team did a
So
brilliant
you'd
job.
give Shaun Johnson a knighthood?
Well, I think he did an amazing job. I'd give Ian Foster a knighthood if he wins the World Cup too.
It's two knighthoods you've just given away, potentially. Would you give Shaun Johnson a knighthood? He's open to it.
The Prime Minister recommends people for knighthoods to the Governor-General and ultimately to the King. You can't do that publicly.
Yeah.
But privately, you can. Come on, up the wires.
I'm not going to start giving out knighthoods publicly. That's just not the way. That's just not the way you do it.
Okay, will the All Blacks win the Rugby World Cup?
Well, I just say to you, in the last national
It's
government,
yes or
we
no.
never lost
Either they're
a
going to
Rugby
win or
World Cup.
not.
Never lost a Rugby World Cup under a national government. The last national
Are
government.
they going to win?
Absolutely.
Yeah. All right, this is the end of the night, but there's one more question. An amnesty. Have you told any lies, fibs, mistruths, or given any misinformation or made a mistake that you want to clear up?
Where I've made a mistake, I've cleared it up.
Yeah, we will make mistakes. We'll continue to make mistakes, but where you do it, you front up to it and call it.
Well, you haven't given any information, so let alone misinformation.
This is the end. There ends the debate. Thank you very much to both our leaders, the Red Chris and the Blue Chris. It's been a fantastic night, but it's not over yet. Newshub Political Editor Jenna Lynch will be here in just a minute with an expert panel, and their first job is simple: to tell us who won, and we'll also hear from the leaders on how they thought they went tonight. We'll be back in just a moment.
Thanks, Paddy.
Welcome back to the 2023 Newshub Leaders Debate. Wow, what a roller coaster. With me tonight to unpack it all, our brilliant panel. We have political commentators Josie Pagani and Janet Wilson, and host of Three's the Hui, Julian Wilcox. Welcome to you all. We're going to hear from the leaders soon as well to see how they think they went. But first, let's just take a quick look back at what just went down.
And I'll just put it to you, Chris, you don't give gang members who are hooking our kids up to meth $2.7 million for rehab services.
So why did John Key introduce that? Why did John Key introduce
providers and gang members?
So why did John Key introduce that?
So
that's a policy introduced under John Key's government. If it's so wrong, why did they do it?
Let me hear what we're going to do on gangs, Pat.
Well, no, I'll ask you about
why did John Key introduce that policy? If it's so bad, why did he introduce it?
Chris, I'm just struggling to actually. I think Paddy's the moderator here.
Yeah.
So I know you're keyed up, and I appreciate you've got to come out here and have a bit of a fight. That's good. Let's do that, but let's do it respectfully.
Have either of you done MDMA?
No.
No. Because it's criminal.
Will either of you lower the age of screening and save the lives of Kiwis?
Yeah, I'd like to do that. And we've also said we'd like to do it on breast cancer screening. We're extending it from 69 to 74, saving 65 lives. It makes sense that we should do the same on bowel cancer.
So what will you bring it?
Because, Paddy, here's the problem, right? We have a 15% higher mortality rate on cancer than the equivalents in Australia do. And so we actually have to close that cancer gap big time.
Okay, so the bowel cancer screening, do you want to bring it down as well, Chris Hipkins? Will you
Yes,
make
absolutely, I do.
So you'll make that commitment to bring it down?
Absolutely.
All right, so both of you, I just think...
I get a bit angry about this because this is a direct quote, and he's talking about Māori. He said, "Cry if you want to, we don't care. You pushed it too far. We are the party with the cultural mandate and the courage to cut out your disease and bury you permanently." Christopher, you're willing to work with these people. Why?
Well, I'll tell you why, because look, I'll tell you what's going to happen is I don't want to work with New Zealand First, but I am going to make the call if it means that I stop you to Party Murray and the Greens coming to power in 3 years.
Do you think that's racist?
I do. What I would resign over is not delivering tax relief for low and middle income.
So he's not answering the question again.
That's not the question.
Answers the question, does he?
Let me answer the question. The tax plan. Just
the question is this: will you resign if you don't bring in the foreign cash or not? Just tell New Zealanders now.
I am deeply committed to delivering tax relief to low and middle income New Zealanders. No, but it's important you understand.
Still no answer.
No, important to understand it. Well, Chris, there's no answer.
I'm going to give you one more go. Is he good or bad for this country, Chris Hipkins?
Bad.
That's a decision for the voters of New Zealand.
Yes or no? Is he good or bad?
I don't know him.
Is he good or bad?
I don't know him, and I don't want to deal with him if I have to, but I have to keep Chris out.
Is he good or bad? Yes or no? Because you said you will deal with him if you had to.
I don't know him, Paddy. I don't know him well.
Everybody knows him. It's Winston Peters.
Well, where have those guys been on the campaign trail? Let's not beat around the bush, though. Let's go straight to who do you guys think was the winner of that debate? Let's start with Josie.
The debate was the winner. That was the best debate. It was feisty, it was funny, it was steely, there was swagger. I think you'd have to say, I think the question really is, who did both of them do what they needed to do? And Chris Hipkins came on behaving like an opposition leader. I mean, he had swagger, he was punching, he was holding Christopher Luxon to account. So he did what he needed to do. He had energy and he really fought. And then Christopher Luxon also did what he needed to do, which was to be almost statesman-like, a little bit sensible, even, you know, just slightly ponderous at times. He looked like a Prime Minister. So I'd have to say that I think Chippy got the hits on the night, but they both did what they needed to do.
Julian?
I thought there was actually a little bit of a Chris Luxon answer for a little while there. And based on the strong beginning, and by the way, where was that guy 2.5 months ago?
Yeah.
I think Chris Hipkins won the debate. And the reason is because I thought they evened out at the end. And I thought Chris Luxon got some good points in. But this is what people, I think, potentially were looking for from Chris Hipkins. When the polls are down and everything else, that strong beginning is why he shaded Luxon. And I think that's what stood him in the position of winning the debate tonight.
Janet?
And there's, I think it was Hipkins' night, definitely. He was really fast out of the gates. He went into attack mode very quickly and early, and rightly so. I thought Luxon had stuck to a lot of his old lines that we'd heard a lot of times before, particularly at the beginning. He warmed up as he went through the evening, and he warmed up quite well. But it's a funny old thing, isn't it, when we have our Prime Minister acting as the Leader of the Opposition, and we have our Leader of the Opposition acting Prime Ministerial.
Well, in the debate, you would have heard Paddy talk about Priti Patel, a dairy owner from Christchurch, who wanted to know what the Chris's would do to stop people like her being robbed over and over again. Our own Lloyd Burr is sitting in the audience now next to Priti and will tell us what she thought of the answers.
Yeah, so Priti, you saw both the leaders hear your story. Did either of those leaders make you feel safer?
Well, not really, because there's nothing that we haven't heard before. You know, they both promised that they're going to put out these rehabilitation programs. We actually need something done yesterday for us, because tomorrow morning I've got to go and open the shop, and I still live with that fear. When I close the shop, I still live with that fear. We don't want something done in the next month or the next year or the next 5 years. We need it done now, and we need some solid affirmation that they're going to do something to protect us. You know, there's always talk about the criminals being the sort of the criminals being the.
That's right. So, I mean, Luxon's talked a big game on this with ram raids being tough on criminals. Did anything that he said, any of the plan, did that make you feel safer?
No, we are actually the people who the crime is being committed against. We want the help. We want the protection. Fog cannons, security, gates, alarms and all that, yeah, they deter, but they don't protect us very well. Fog cannons are actually they actually hamper us, you know, they're a bit more of a threat to us now, you know, since it actually does nothing. So we want the help. We want them to help us. How are they going to help us? How are they going to protect us?
Thank you very much. Preeti, I appreciate you telling your story. Hope both leaders were listening to that answer. Your answers were terrible.
Thanks, Lord. We'll come back to you shortly. Now, Amelia Wade has just caught up with Chris Hipkins backstage and found out how he thought he went.
Christopher promised that he would release his fiscal plan before people started voting. Christopher, if you can't keep your promises in opposition, why should New Zealanders believe you'll keep your promises in government? But Christopher, again, is making a whole lot of promises with no money to pay for that.
Paddy, I've got to say, this negativity from Chris isn't good for him, right? Actually, I mean, I feel like I should give him a hug or something. I mean, it's not working for him, right? I mean,
you don't like to be challenged.
No, the last few weeks, man. The last few weeks, man, you've been very negative. It's sort of, it's not you. It's not you.
You don't like being challenged. If you actually answered any of the questions, I wouldn't need to challenge you quite so much.
You've got to give it up. I'm going to have a lot more leverage on you.
Where's your crystal ball? I didn't know that you had one there.
Amelia Wade talking to Chris Hipkins there. That was a bit of a highlights reel of Chris Hipkins' best moments in the debate. What would you say Chris Hipkins' best moment was?
I think actually just talking about crime, it was when he turned to Christopher Luxon and said, if you're going to take the gang patches off, how on earth are the police going to identify the gang members? And he had singers like that all through the night. He was really on his game. I think on the crime issue it's really interesting because it reveals also what the weakness is for Labour, which is that they don't know whether to campaign on their legacy, on continuity of 6 years in government, or change. So are they saying crime is getting better under Labour, it's not as bad as you think it is, or are they saying it's a real problem, we need to do something about it? And that was a theme all the way through, I think. With Christopher Luxon, I think the gang patch discussion also revealed where he's a bit weak, because Paddy kept pushing him. How are you going to take the patches off the gang members? How are you going to do it? And he can't do it. So that's been his weakness all through the campaign.
Yeah.
So it revealed their weaknesses.
Luxon was at his weakest when it came to the crime issue. And he would tell you that probably it's one of their strongest issues that they're facing as a party. But we had no more than, and I have to agree with Hipkins here, we had slogans. Yeah. I think Luxon got a lot more granular and bored into the issues when it came to things, surprising things like education climate change as well. Yeah. Things you wouldn't have expected. I mean, I thought Hipkins won the cost of living section.
Yeah, I think the other thing...
Because he took it to him.
The other thing, you're right on the slogans. The platitudinous stuff people don't actually want to hear. They've heard it for 2 months. What people want to hear is when you're asked a direct question, answer the direct question. Lots of times tonight, Luxon got asked the direct questions and either wouldn't or couldn't, and he kept trying to pivot.
What I will say to you, is...
That's right, that's right. I'm going to keep a promise now, and we are going to go to Amelia Wade talking to Chris Hipkins backstage on how he thought he went.
And how do you reckon you went tonight?
Oh, it was a great debate. I really enjoyed it.
And what do you give yourself out of 10?
Oh, generally, I'm not going to give myself a ranking from these things. I learned from last week's experience.
And any bangers you reckon that you had?
Look, I think the whole debate was pretty good, actually. It was a lively audience, and that certainly, you know, adds a new dimension to the debate. I really enjoyed it.
Not coming with some receipts on New Zealand First?
What was that?
Not coming with some receipts on New Zealand First? You wouldn't rate that in your performance?
Receipts? I don't really understand the question.
The receipts, that you came with evidence.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
And anything you want to clear up tonight that you may have said?
Not that I'm aware of yet, but, you know, in the debrief afterwards, maybe there'll be something, but I think I gave the debate my best shot.
Any clangers?
I don't think so.
Not being able to say with that oranges would be cheaper, perhaps?
Well, of course they'll be cheaper.
Everyone talk at the same time.
All right.
And we'll try and figure out what they would...
Right, interesting there. Chris Hipkins not willing to give himself a rating on how he did in the debate. Does anyone else want to give him a rating?
I'd give him 8 out of 10. I think that's the best I've seen him.
Yeah, I think that's about right. He probably thinks in his own mind, although he didn't say it, he probably thinks in his own mind he shaded Luxon tonight.
Yeah, it's certainly a better 8 out of 10 than he gave himself last time round. Yeah.
All right, the leaders were asked about bowel cancer screening and both made a commitment on that tonight. That question came from Amy Rose Yates. Lloyd is with her now in the audience.
Yeah, this is Amy just here to my right. Amy, we heard some big promises from both leaders actually. They both wanted to reduce the age from 60 down to 50 and down to 45. Do you believe both of those leaders, or are they just empty campaign promises?
I mean, I guess time will tell to see if they actually walk the walk. The thing for me is it's a start. It's somewhere. But unfortunately, I was diagnosed when I was 29, and there are going to be people, more and more people like me, who are going to continue getting diagnosed and who are going to keep dying. And what are they going to do about that?
You've been campaigning on this issue for a long time. You've heard politicians probably talk about it a lot. Do you think they'll walk about it?
Well, when it's election year, probably.
Yep. Okay. Well, thank you very much for telling your story. Gina.
Right, just after the break, we will hear how Christopher Luxon think he did in the debate. Stay with us. Welcome back to the Newshub Leaders Debate analysis. Now, no one on the stage was willing to award the debate to Christopher Luxon, but we have just heard from him backstage. Let's see what he thought himself.
Quickly, how do you reckon you went tonight?
Well, that was fun. I mean, it was a real freewheeling debate, and I got to say, I really enjoyed it actually. Paddy brings quite a different dimension to it, doesn't he?
And how did you rate yourself out of 10?
Oh, not sure. That'll be up for the New Zealand people, but I did really enjoy it. Yeah.
And any bangers you reckon you had tonight?
Well, I think, clearly I made a mistake I was a bit of nerves, I think, at the beginning around, ecstasy, and but corrected that in the process. But
That's more of a clanger, isn't it? The MDMA, crime, not crime, crime?
Yeah, that's right. I mean, I think I got that wrong and with a bit of nerves, but faced up to it, called it out, and but had a lot of fun along the way.
Alrighty, and anything you want to clear up that you said tonight?
No, it was a great debate. I enjoyed it. It was good fun.
Sweet as.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Thanks.
All right, Christopher Luxon wouldn't give himself a rating either. Who wants to do it for him?
Look, I think he did, as I said, I think he did what he needed to do. He didn't stumble. He came across as sensible, statesmanlike. He had to make sure that the fear tactics from Labor, from Chippy, weren't going to resonate. So he had to reassure people that he was reasonable. And I think he did that. I mean, take the abortion question as an example. I mean, he was very clear about that. He wouldn't be pushed on what his own view was, but he was very clear it will not change. The law will not change. So I think he did what he needed to do.
He got some good quips in on education. You know, he's absolutely right. Chris Hipkins has been the Minister of Education for 5.5 years of a 6-year term of the Labor Party and government. That was a good quip. The five-headed horse, when he talked about the coalition on the left, is a good quip. That would stand until you consider what he's talking about when he has to take into account Winston Peters, and of course he has to take in the ACT Party. And I'm sorry, we all know he's lying when he says he doesn't know Winston Peters.
Who doesn't know Winston Peters?
Everyone knows that, and it doesn't
Even if you don't know him, you do know him, because he's a public figure. I mean, that was just a ridiculous comment to make.
I actually think that he probably wants New Zealand First there anyway, because he wants some sort of balance to ACT. So it would actually suit him to have New Zealand First and ACT on either side of him. He's not going to say that, and I think he sort of bats that off quite successfully.
Look, I know that they went in the debate, but the ACT Party has, you would have noticed over the last week, started to soften some of its messaging because it wants New Zealanders not to get New Zealand First in as a part of that coalition. Here's the problem. His ultimate scenario is New Zealand First doesn't get 5%. They get 4.9%. All that vote gets washed away into the rest of the proportion. The problem is this. He hasn't answered how it's going to work. He talks about how he was a successful CEO. Managers are great. Doesn't talk about your leadership style and how you're going to manage those two people.
And I think he's being outplayed this week when it comes to Winston, and we've seen that in the softening of the vote as well, and the softening of the polling, both on Monday and tonight.
Let's take a quick look at the highlights from Christopher Luxon.
5,000 more nurses now than there were when we became
But Chris,
the
it doesn't
government.
matter. There's 4,500 short and you're 1,700 doctors short. Wait times for people who spend more than 6 hours in an emergency department waiting has gone from 9% of Kiwis used to wait more than 6 hours. Today, over 30% of us wait more than 6 hours. That's one of those wait list times that's
And
gone
avoiding
backwards
people ending up in ED is one of the ways that we can deal with it.
I agree with that, but that is the major challenge that we have. And all of those wait list times have gone backwards. And if you've got a cancer diagnosis today and it takes you 4 months to get your first specialist appointment and 4 months to get your first surgery, that is the difference between life and death.
You know
and
what?
those targets matter because they save lives.
And you know what?
That's what I'm not tolerating as we try and build one of the best small advanced countries in the world, an education system where 40% of our kids don't show up at school regularly, 65,000 are chronically absent from school, and actually half show up at high school not ready to go, and half the 15-year-olds fail the most basic maths, reading and writing tests. That's not good enough. We need more ambition, we need more aspiration. We teach the basics.
Okay.
Well, let's get back to Lloyd Burr in the audience. He is with Bridget and Mike Parker from Tolaga Bay. Lloyd.
Yep, they're with us here. Now, I know that Luxon has been to your farm and that Kitty Allen, former Labour MP, well, former Labour Minister, has been to your farm as well. Putting those things aside, based on the answers you heard tonight, a lot of talk. Do you think either of them is going to walk the walk? We'll start with you, Mike.
I think Chris Hipkins didn't. He a bit disappointing. Our rivers are still full of logs. There's silt and logs all over the flat still. And we've just been we're like the forgotten people. Nothing's really happened. It's all come to a standstill. On the other hand, Chris Luxon, he's talking a lot stronger about stopping the forestry from harvesting until they've sorted things out, which I think is really important, that they have to stop them and say, look here guys, you're affecting your neighbours, it's just, dirty neighbours and bad stuff's happening, so yeah.
What about you, Bridget?
Yes, I agree with Mike. I think Chris Hipkins is actually totally wrong in saying that it's better to leave the trees, that they have to be cut down. In our situation, we've got over 100 hectares of pine trees that are only 10 to 15 years old that have fallen down the hill and caused a dam up above us now, bigger than a rugby field. And there's absolutely no way that they can be cut down because the hills are so badly eroded that you can't put the infrastructure in place to go in there and get it. And all the people are unsafe below it. And everyone from Gabriel is feeling really slacked off at the Labour Party's inability to get stuck in and help us like happened in Cyclone Bowler.
We've got to leave it there. Thank you very much for both of you. So it was Luxon for the win over here.
And thank you very much to all of our audience members who have participated with us tonight. We only have a few minutes left, so I want to come quickly back to the panel, and I want you guys to tell me who you think had the biggest clanger of the night. Who stuffed it up out there?
Ooh. I don't think either of them did, actually. I mean, I think it was embarrassing for Luxon, a few U-turns he did. One was over the drugs, is it illegal? Yes, it is illegal. No, it's not illegal. But I don't think there were any clangers. I think they can both feel that they came out of that well. I think the interesting thing is that they were both weak on defence and foreign policy, and that has not resonated at all in this election. I mean, God help Sugar and phones in schools. They're in trouble. Yeah. But on defence, AUKUS, whether or not we're going to be, combat ready. They were very weak on that. Both of them. I thought
Hipkins really got himself into the whole race thing big time. When the co-governance thing is highly inflammatory as a topic, but I think he took it a step too far. And I wouldn't call it a clanger, but I just thought he went over the mark.
What do you think of that, Julie?
Whether we like it or not, race has been an issue in this campaign.
Yeah.
Now, that is not to say I'm making a comment on the question that was asked about whether or not New Zealand is a racist country or not. But I can tell you, going out into the campaign trail, joining some of these MPs, they are getting it right in their faces from people in communities, particularly on those MPs who are of an ethnic origin or are Māori. Now, that's a fact. And whether we like it or not, that's what's happening in this campaign. So I agree with you in that he might have taken it a step too far, but that's one of the things that he's been strong on all the way through. And to be honest with you, it's one of the things that Luxon, I think, has been weak on. Did any of them make a clanger? Here's the point I make. Did any of them make a clanger that's going to impact on the election on October the 14th? I personally don't think so. What I think we got was a debate that allowed them, there's that old quote that brevity is the soul of wit, and I think both got the ability to be able to do that tonight. But the other thing I would say is...
I'm going to have to go brevity is the soul of wit here on you. Sorry, Julian, we've got to wrap this up. Well, that really is it for the News Hub Leaders Debate. A massive thank you for our panel tonight, and thanks to Chris Hipkins and Christopher Luxon, and to our audience here at the Q Theatre. What a night. Now it is up to you to cast your vote. The election is happening on October the 14th. Sam Hayes, Ryan Bridge, Paddy and I will be here with you from 7 o'clock on the night as the results roll in. News Hub Late is up soon. I'm Jenna Lynch. Pō Marie.